central spiritual philosophy within Sufism is the 7 planes of consciousness. And this is the understanding expressed in this neat fashion that light, in other words, energy, they're synonyms, expresses itself in different vibrations. And we can look at the rainbow as a metaphor for that. And that's a really useful metaphor. So white light comes through the prism and bifurcates into these 7 different colors. So if we see ourselves as a prism and light being universal energy coming through us, we radiate out into the world these 7 colors. In fact, it's a continuum of energy, but we like to look at it as 7. And we radiate that into the world in our way. Well, our way is not light. It's thought. It's feeling. It's decision. There are various things that we do that registers activity of the mind other than thinking. So when light is at its highest vibration, we think of it as the source. That's God. And it's pure light. As it moves down into the lower realms by expressing itself in a diverse way, as unity becomes diversity, the 7th plane of consciousness, which is unity itself, is moved down into the 6th plane. And light is really still very pristine at that level. Then it comes down to the 5th, less so, but still quite sacred. The 4th plane is starting to get a little bit colored by the integrationists going through to meet stuff, form. And then it goes down further and it becomes softer. Then it goes down further and it becomes cleverer. Then it becomes further down, and the slowest vibration of light is physicality. Now I'm going to go up through the planes, and what I've just done, going down through the planes, that's called Tanzuliat. That's the name of it. Going up through the planes also, I think. Journey through the planes, the name is Tanzuliat. So we start on the earth plane. Anything that's physical is of the earth plane. That's not quite as obvious as it seems when you consider things like fire.
Yeah.
Tricky. Nevertheless, we'll leave that for the moment for philosophical discussions later. I've never been able to get anybody to agree with me about my outlandish point of view on this topic. So we'll leave that for now. But anyway, the earth plane is the physical body, our need to have food. And when I spoke to my Sufi master in Turkey, I said, what's the essence of life? He said, to eat and to shit. It's great. It's just so perfect. In other words, to breathe in and breathe out. So on the physical level, if we don't do those kind of things like breathing in and breathing out, like eating and shitting and, just keeping ourselves physical, then we die. We're not physical anymore. The I, who we are, is no longer in a physical body. So the earth plane has to do with that. Constriction, limitation, and so on and so forth, forces us to deal with those limitations. So you can't overcome unless you have limitation. So actually you can't feel compassion without there being limitation in the world, because if everybody can do what they want, what's the point in being compassionate? Because they're doing what they want. And patience and forgiveness and forbearance and those kind of energies are supported by the fact that we're surrounded by people going through a hard time. And the physicality of life is getting on top of everything physical so that you experience abundance. And that's the mystery of this first plane, abundance. If you're experiencing abundance in your life, you're doing all right, but that's sustainable abundance. And that's not usually measured in money. It's the feeling that you have is there is enough. and that's because I'm living right. And I think Loic came up with a term that I hadn't heard before. He called it the feast of enough. And that's the mystery of the first plane in many ways. There's more, and we'll go into the detail later, of course. So that's the first plane. Now, if you think of this as the soul moving from unity in towards incarnation back home, that one journey, then the thing it does after releasing itself from the physical plane through death is going back to the astral. It's already been there on the way down. The astral plane is metaphorically huger. It's vast. It's whatever you've got in your mind out there, as it were. And it lasts 1,000 years compared to 80 years down here, although they don't have time on the astral plane, so that 1,000-year is a metaphor. The astral plane is to do with the lower emotions as well, so what we think we feel very often. And it has two levels. The lower astral is dark thoughts, the upper astral is light thoughts. So here you can have creativity, genius, these kind of aspects of the mind. Down there you've got anxiety and worrying and fear, and the thoughts that you have, however clear they are and however passionate they are, that's a measure of how long they have in terms of longevity on the astral plane. So if you just feel a casual thought, it never just does anything to you. It just dies like a wave in the ocean. But if you really mean something and you put it out into the world with the most passionate certainty that you've got something like Islam, Christianity, thought forms that just are the strongest force in the world 1,000, 2,000 years later. Like the thought form behind these religions is on the astral plane. So the thoughts that we have, and to some extent the emotions that we have, live on the astral. So if two lovers, for example, are emotionally charged, really passionately charged, and they have a fight, that intensity of emotional energy gets to have a reality on the astral pretty quickly, pretty powerfully. And then you get things like poltergeist. The interaction between the astral plane and the physical plane, somehow the veil is penetrated. We can see ghosts, sometimes, not often, certain people, but it's considered so unusual that it's not considered real, but it is. It's just that it's not frequent. And even the astral plane can come down this way, intentionally and mischievous way, like ghosts, but the jinn is a mischievous spirit. That's the population of the astral plane. It's populated by jinn spirits, D-J-I-N-N. So you have to be careful. You don't really enter the astral plane unless you're a certain kind of adventurous type of mind. I got my fingers burnt a bit by doing that, so my teacher said, don't do that. And so, of course, I had to go away and do it and find out why not. And okay, you can get lost there. Some ill-disciplined minds, some people, the pink and fluffies do this all the time. Oh, blah, 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 blah. They have no boundaries. They have no discipline, and they get taken up by the jinn spirits. And you feel this sense of the vampire spirits, the suction. And if it's with you, when you're with some people, they leave you drained because they're depressed or so confused or angry or whatever. But that draining process is the vampirism of the jinn spirits. So you have to guard your energy. And when you're talking to someone who's disturbed like that, I've actually learned to do this all of the time. I never focus my eyes into someone's eyes unless I know them quite well. I would always look around this area here, actually, and so that their mind cannot enter mine. So that's the astral plane. It's the plane of thought, and the general wisdom here is that you have to affirm optimism. is to turn darkness into light. Any negativity that you've got can be cleansed into positivity with a clear mind. It's called reframing in NLP, for example. And it happens to be something I'm pretty good at. I never see a problem. I always see an opportunity. You know, I trained myself to do that. So that's the astral plane. Now, if you lighten up, you start feeling things, then your voice becomes softer and the colors of your life become more pastel in color and in shade, and children enjoy your company and you have fun and you don't mind if things go wrong, and you just don't mind if people go wrong, and you just have compassion and care. And you know, you have a holiday on the Mediterranean beach as often as at all possible, and you know, if somebody's causing a fuss, you just let them get on with it, you know. And so you just live this quiet family life where everyone's loving and kind and so on, and that's lovely. You know, it's nice. So it's love, but it's kind of that type of soft love. It's not powerful really, it's soft. And it's called the plane of love, harmony, and beauty. The suggestion being that the perfection of love leads to harmony. The perfection of harmony leads to beauty. And it's all Venus energy. Whereas the second plane was Mercury and the first is the solar energy. I am this because I'm here in this body and nobody else is. You can't dispute that this is James Burgess, you know. So you got the Sun, Mercury, Venus. So it's soft and it's nice and it's pretty, and somebody who's strong on the third plane would have a very wonderfully sort of decorated house, pretty things in nice colours, and you can see that I'm pretty weak on the third plane. You know, anybody who looks at me doesn't think I'm a good family man. They don't expect me to be good with children, you know. So I'm much stronger on the second plane. I'm an ideas man, and I argue the point and enjoy that kind of thing. So the third plane is gentle and soft in tone. Sometimes, however, there's a need for you to step up and defend what you love and attack those who are attacking what you love. So you stand on a matter of principle and you become strong and you have faith that that's enough. David and Goliath. I insist upon truth. I don't like bullshitters in my life, you know. I require justice, you know. This needs to be done if I have to die to do it. It's that kind of heart of oak energy. So it's also associated with the heart. But the understanding in Sufism is that this gentle third plane is not strong enough. But this deeper heart is powerful. And it's of the faith. It's the faith of God. It's the highest exaltation of ego. So somebody who's strong on the fourth plane, like me, is not at all embarrassed about having a strong ego. You know, it's not egotistical. It's just like, I've got an ego and I know how it works. That's going to get the job done. It's much more a power tool. You know, you're too real with the fourth plane focus to get off on egotism. You know, it's an authentic measurement of self, and egotism is inauthentic. So it's nevertheless a very strong ego on the fourth plane. So these are people that examine the truth of a matter, get the job done, very often take roles of leadership and command, and struggle with life to deal with it, all matters of life. These would be counsellors sometimes, not the tea and sympathy, kind of counsellor, but the counsellor that says, you got to stop that or you will die. You know, bottom line, I can beat about the bush and spend a year telling you this, but unless you give up drinking, you're going to be dead within 5 years. You know, that is that kind of counselling, therapy, you know, confrontation. It's a lot to do with conflict and confrontation. When you've cleaned away the falseness of yourself through fourth house experiences, the heroic plane, of course, ruled by Mars, you get to move above that, and the Jupiter energy comes, and there's the plane of splendor, and you start really wanting life to be meaningful. So the search for meaning, your spiritual quest, your choice of behavior to represent the aristocracy of your being. Whereas the fourth plane exalts in the egotism, correction into egoism is still ego. Whereas the fifth plane is soul. You're starting to become aware of the angelic realm. So the fourth plane would be associated with the cherubim, the seraphim, the warriors of God, the angelic presences, the fourth plane. But on the fifth plane, you become aware of them, cherubim, because they sing. The cherubim just sing throughout eternity, proclaiming the beauty that they find as they perceive God. So here is sacredness, here is vision, here is your spiritual path, here is your willingness to move towards integration, Jupiter, and expansion, integration, sacredness, more. And the more that you're opening up to is more consciousness of soul, and you start doing spiritual practices and that kind of thing. On the sixth plane, we're moving into Saturn energy, and this is where basically the ego is all but dead, whereas the fifth plane, the plane of splendor, has sacredness as the emotion. The sixth plane goes beyond even that to a distilled version of the self, the absolute essence of self, purified from all expression. Imagine yourself sitting on the top of a mountain, snowy mountain in the Himalayas, wrapped up warm, and you're just sitting there meditating. And there's nothing in your mind except for a clear sky above you. And the village, the marketplace, is just so far down there. It's small and insignificant, and all your memories are gone. You can't even remember that you exist some of the time, because you keep kind of splitting into and out of a consciousness in practice as the seventh plane hovers. It's the sixth and the seventh are quite close. So if you get into meditation and you find your meditative condition, that's the highest is the sixth plane in meditation, really. And then you just sometimes lose it for minutes on end, and that's the seventh plane. You are not, you're one with cosmic reality, and you're back in tune then with the source of all light. You can't stay there, but you can touch upon that seventh plane, which has no emotion. It's altogether free of any human imperfections.